Have you ever wondered why a woman who lives alone shines with a light that does not ask permission to exist, and yet seems to carry a night sky inside her eyes? Some women sit in a quiet room at dusk, close the door behind them, and choose the company of their own soul. People whisper. People imagine. People project their fears and their fantasies. But the truth moves in deeper water. The truth is a river under the house, feeding the roots of a life that refuses to be a performance. There is a woman who wakes before the sun, not to serve a script but to listen. She knows the strange music of early morning, when the self walks in from the horizon to sit at the table. She has a name in the world. But inside she moves by older names: hunter, healer, queen without a throne, child without a chore list, wild thing, temple. She is many rooms, and she has learned to open each door without fear. This is not loneliness. This is her house. You may have been told that a woman alone is an unfinished story, a puzzle waiting for a missing piece, a chair with one broken leg. You may have been told that attention equals worth and that a ring is the proof of life. You may have been taught to measure love by witness counts, by the number of eyes in the audience. But the heart does not bloom on a scoreboard, and the soul does not need a referee. The woman who lives alone has stepped past the gates of false prizes. She has learned a different kind of math. In the beginning, her life looked like everyone else's. There was a mask she wore because the village handed it to her. It was called the persona, the pleasant face, the good girl, the friendly son. The persona is useful, like a coat against rain. It helps one walk among people without getting lost in their weather. But a coat is not skin. A mask is not a mouth. Eventually, the mask grows heavy. The woman who lives alone takes it off at night and learns to breathe. She starts to wonder what she looks like under other people's ideas. She meets her shadow. She meets the locked rooms in her house, the room of anger, where her voice was stored like thunder in a jar. The room of desire, where her hunger slept under polite blankets, the room of power, where her spine had been folded like paper. The shadow is not evil. It is the unloved part, the uninvited guest, the quiet sibling of the persona. When she opens the door and lets the shadow sit at the table, the house becomes honest. The lights stop flickering. There is a steadier glow. You might fear that door. You might fear what you will find. What if the hidden parts are too loud? What if they ruin the picture? But the picture was never true without them. The shadow carries gifts in a rough coat. Anger becomes clarity. Desire becomes direction. Power becomes protection. The woman learns to speak like a bell that knows its own metal. The house does not collapse, it stands straighter because it finally holds all of itself. People will project their dreams and their nightmares onto that house. Some will call her free and chase the echo of their own longing. Some will call her cold and punish the mirror for not melting. Projection is a human habit. People hang their inner paintings on any wall that will hold them. They see a witch or a saint, a temptress or a nun, a broken soul or a beacon. The woman who lives alone learns the art of returning pictures to their owners. She hands back what was never hers to hold. She keeps her walls clear. You may notice this in your own life. Someone labels you before they know you. Someone tells you your story like a song they wrote before you were born. You do not have to sing it. You can hand it back with kindness. That, too, is a kind of love, to refuse to carry what does not belong to your spine. There is a deep center beneath her daily habits, the place Jung called the self. It is not the small self that frets about approval or watches for footsteps in the hall. It is the quiet center that moves through seasons like a mountain under weather. The woman who lives alone sets her compass by that mountain. The ego is still needed, an organized keeper of calendars and keys. But the captain now is older, wiser, a center that knows when to bow to mystery. She learns to let go of control she never truly had. Rigid plans become flexible bridges. She stops arguing with storms and starts learning their shape. This is the work of individuation, the long walk toward wholeness. Not wholeness as in perfection, but wholeness as in inclusion. Nothing real is exiled. The child in her is welcomed back to sit at the window. The elder in her begins tracing a map. The lover in her writes poems on scraps of shopping lists. The worker in her builds frames for her dreams. Individuation is the art of becoming one's living myth instead of acting out a borrowed tale. You might feel a trembling at the edges of that word, alone. You might remember nights that felt like locked doors and cold pillows. Understand this: loneliness is a bruise from disconnection. But solitude is a muscle. It grows with use. In solitude, a woman meets a friend who will never leave, the deepest part of herself. She learns to fill her own cup and to drink slowly. The taste is strange at first. Sweetness without sugar. Warmth without applause. But she keeps sipping. The body learns. The mind calms. The soul clears like water after a storm. Attraction visits this house, too. It knocks at all hours. There are men drawn to the light because they have lost their own. Some seek warmth without firewood of their own to offer. Some come with nets, hoping to catch a wild thing and call it tamed. Some come with open hands, carrying kindling and listening ears. The woman who lives alone has learned the difference between a visitor and a resident. A guest and a trespasser, a gift and a trap. She watches the shape of behavior, not the glitter of words. She recognizes love by how it leaves her spine taller, not smaller. She knows that a good man is not a savior but an equal traveler, and she does not confuse butterflies with warnings. You may have confused hunger with chemistry. You may have mistaken panic for passion. The body is wise, but it tells stories from the past when it has not been heard. Old wounds are like magnets when they are unhealed. They attract familiar trouble because familiar trouble feels like home. The woman who lives alone becomes a gentle scientist of her own nervous system. She notices what rises in her chest, what tightens in her throat, what goes quiet in her belly. She asks the simple questions: is this love or an old alarm? Is this calm or shut down? Is this yes or fear of saying no? Attachment styles whisper their stories behind the scenes. The anxious heart believes the door will close unless eyes are always watching. The avoidant heart believes love is a net unless distance is kept like oxygen. The secure heart believes love can be both closeness and quiet, both touch and space. The woman who lives alone practices secure love within her own walls. She becomes her own base camp. When a man arrives, he meets a person who is not asking to be rescued, not testing, not punishing, not clinging, not disappearing. He meets someone who can stay and also breathe. This is where Stoic wisdom joins the table. What is not in her control is let go like leaves in autumn. The minds of others cannot be forced to bloom in the way she wishes. The passage of time cannot be bribed into stillness. The past cannot be rewritten with better penmanship. What remains is noble: her choices, her attention, her responses, her virtues. She chooses truth over theater, kindness over scorekeeping, courage over comfort when the soul calls for it. She tells the difference between pain that harms and pain that heals. She walks toward the work that frees her, even if the road is uphill and the audience is quiet. You might ask, is this strength just a wall? Is she protecting because she is hiding? There are seasons of protection that are wise. The body builds scar tissue where it has been cut. But a healed woman does not live forever behind armor. Boundaries are not barbed wire, they are garden fences with gates that open for what is healthy and close. There is an old myth that a woman without a man is less woman, as if her breath were a borrowed loan, her worth a stamp from a clerk. But the archetypes disagree. The huntress runs in forests no wedding ring could encircle. The sage studies stars that have not been named by anyone's last name. The queen sits on a throne built of her choices, not of someone else's mercy. The mother archetype holds not only children but projects, communities, and gardens. The maiden learns curiosity without fear. The crone carries winter wisdom and a long memory for spring. A single life can host all of these. The woman who lives alone is not a half. She is a host of rooms that each shine in turn. You may be told that softness is surrender and strength is hardness. Watch more closely. A river cuts stone because it keeps showing up. Silk outlasts armor when rust enters the story. The woman who lives alone can be gentle because she trusts the ground under her. She can be fierce because her fierceness is not a tantrum but a boundary. She can be open because she knows the shape of her center, and no guest can rearrange her furniture without her permission. Attraction, again, returns to this house, and this time it finds her deeper. Some men are magnetized by a woman who is not begging for rescue because they, too, wish to stop performing. In her presence, they do not need to be saviors. They can be men, not mascots. Others feel threatened by a woman who will not bend her light to fit their eyes. They speak of weakness masked as independence. They speak of bitterness projected as standards. The woman hears these words as weather. She knows which words to carry inside and which to let rain on the porch. You may be tempted to lower your price to make a sale as soon as the market is quiet. You may think that company at any cost is cheaper than silence. This is how one ends up paying later with interest. The woman who lives alone knows her value, not because a crowd told her, but because her mornings told her, her craft told her friendships told her God or her ground told her. She does not inflate her worth, she does not deflate it. She lives at her actual size. The inner masculine, the animus, also enters this story. It is the builder inside the woman, the planner, the protector, the boundary maker, the yes that moves into the world to build what the inner feminine imagines. When the animus is immature, it becomes a critic, a tyrant, a judge that interrupts every breath with not enough. When it matures, it becomes a loyal foreman, a sword that is sheathed unless needed. The woman who lives alone does not reject her inner masculine, she trains it. She lets it serve the heart, not rule it. She learns to schedule the sacred. She learns to plan not from fear but from vision. This balance draws healthy partners and repels those hoping to exploit confusion. You may notice this balance inside your own days. Too much doing dries the river. Too much dreaming floods the fields. The marriage of purpose and presence is the craft. A woman who lives alone becomes a small monastery of one, work and prayer in the same breath, bread and blessing from the same hands. Past trauma does not dissolve by declaration. It dissolves by devotion. The body stores stories that words forget. The woman who lives alone learns rituals that reconnect her to herself. Slow walks without headphones so the world can talk to her. Breathing that sends a message to the old alarms, the fire is out. Journaling that gives the inner child a notebook, not a cage. Therapy or wise counsel that guides her through the maze. Not just around it. A consistent bedtime like a hand on her shoulder. Food that says you deserve to be fed without caveat. It is simple. It is sacred because it is consistent. Healing is boring sometimes. That is its magic. Boredom is the field where safety grows. You might think passion requires chaos. It does not. True passion burns steady. Tantrums fizzle. Secure love keeps the lights on. The woman who lives alone learns to enjoy quiet because quiet is where she can hear her yes and her no. The no becomes a gift to her future self. The yes becomes a bridge to the life she wants. She is learning the difference between romance and rescue. Rescue feels like panic that somebody else can soothe for a minute. Romance feels like wonder that two full lives can share. Rescue wants ownership. Romance wants partnership. Rescue is drama. Romance is devotion. The woman who lives alone does not audition for the role of savior or the role of saved. She signs up for collaboration or she walks away. Seasons pass. The house ages. Sunlight writes different stories on the floor. She can choose someone now or later or never. The choice is hers, which is the point. If she chooses from fullness, not from famine. If she waits without folding into ash. If she never meets a match, her life remains a garden. Children may or may not run through it. Projects will. Friendships will. Wisdom will. The village watches, as villages do. Some will soften because her example touches something brave in them. A mother may tell her daughter, look, you can build your own house first. A father may tell his son, find a woman who has built her own house, so you can bring your own tools and build together. Some will harden. That is their story to finish, not hers. You may be in a room right now, thinking your life is behind schedule because a map on a wall said so. Who made that map? Who measured your worth in milestones you never agreed to? Time is not a competitor. Death is not a bully, it is a teacher. It reminds the day to matter, but it does not demand a checklist. Do not hurry past your own soul. Do not skip the chapters where you learn to be alone with your breath. Those chapters make you a good lover, a good friend, a good leader, a good ancestor. The woman who lives alone meets God or silence in the hallway. She learns that prayer can be washing a cup like it matters. She learns that love can be how she speaks to a clerk. She learns that peace is not a mood but a practice. She forgives. She forgives herself. Not because it erases what happened, but because it unties the knot that kept yesterday choking today. Forgiveness is not forgetting, it is freedom from carrying the enemy in her pocket. Sometimes, a man stands at the threshold who fits the contour of her life. He does not interrupt the music, he joins it. Her standards do not scare him because he has standards too. His masculinity is not a performance, it is a presence. He is not threatened by her solitude because he has his own. He does not confuse leadership with control, nor softness with weakness. Attraction here is gentle, rooted, curious. There is laughter with silence. There is conversation with listening. They build a third thing together, a shared house that honors both inner houses. If such a partnership happens, it is a gift. If it does not, it is also a gift. She does not make a prison out of either outcome. You might feel pressure to call independence the point, to turn it into a trophy. Independence is not the temple. Wholeness is. Independence can be a phase, a tool, a season, a medicine. The soul does not worship medicine, it uses it to heal. The true aim is relationship with life that is rooted in the self, with yourself, with others, with the world, and with the mystery that holds all things. There is power in boredom, power in routine, power in the ordinary. The woman who lives alone stops chasing fireworks every weekend. She learns the joy of learning a recipe until it feels like a story her hands can tell without words. She keeps plants alive. She keeps promises to her future self. She saves money. She rests. She says no to a Friday night that will make Saturday morning feel like regret. These small choices build a large life. She also dances. She also breaks the routine when the soul asks for surprise. She also takes trains to cities with names that taste new. She allows delight to interrupt duty. She does not let one part of her run the whole house forever. The child plays. The parent manages. The elder blesses. Everyone gets a turn. You may worry about safety. The world is not always kind. The woman who lives alone trains in ways that respect this. She learns basic skills. She checks locks. She knows her neighbors. She trusts her intuition, that ancient guide that speaks in body language and subtle alarms. She reads people's feet more than their faces, the direction they lean. The pace of their approach, the weight of their quiet. She does not live in fear, she lives in awareness. Safety is not a cage, it is a competence. There is a realm where the ego still tries to perform. It wants credit for the good work. It wants applause for wisdom. The woman who lives alone laughs at this gently. She lets her life be a whispered story, not a billboard. She does not need to announce that she has integrated her shadow. She does not need to declare that she has outgrown old patterns. The proof is in the peace of her home. She is not a saint. She fails and repairs. She snaps and apologizes. She wastes a day on screens and starts again tomorrow. She turns toward the self again and again. That turning is the whole path. Perfection is a trap tiled with mirrors. The self does not ask for perfection, it asks for attention. It asks for devotion, not exhibition. Time changes her. She becomes a lighthouse, but also a harbor. People visit her presence and feel their shoulders drop. Children feel safe to be loud. Men feel safe to be honest. Women feel safe to be large. Older people feel seen. Younger people feel guided. Not because she preaches, but because her life breathes a kind of quiet that other lungs want to copy. If you walk her path, or part of it, know this: there will be moments when you question your sanity. Everyone else is rushing in one direction and you are still, or you are walking elsewhere. That is the moment to remember the Stoic insight that peace is cooperation with reality, not with the crowd. Reality, for a woman who lives alone by choice, includes an inner life that calls for room. It is not selfish to answer that call. It is service. The world benefits from people who have met themselves. They do less harm. They do more good from less noise. The woman who lives alone is not against men. She is against pretending. She is against bargains that trade her truth for a little warmth. She loves men better now because she is not asking them to be her father, her mirror, her God, her cure. She can see a man because she is not blinded by her own need. She can receive love because she knows she will live if love leaves. Love offered to a woman like that is received like rain by a deep root. It does not flood the soil, it nourishes it. If it does not come, the root still drinks from an underground spring. She clears her shelves of trophies that were never hers. She takes down the timeline that never fit. She stands at the window and watches a blue hour arrive. She has learned that validation is a wind that changes direction without warning, but self-respect is a house with deep foundations. She has learned that being seen is not the same as being loved, and being loved is not the same as belonging to oneself. You may feel the temptation to prove your life, to explain your choices with a speech that would tire mountains. It is not required. The soul does not need a lawyer. It needs a listener. Listen. Then act as a person who trusts her own ears. Some women will hear this and pack a bag. Some will hear this and unpack a bag. Some will stay. Some will leave. The truth about women who live alone without a man is not a single flag to wave. It is a field of decisions made in the direction of wholeness. It is the work of shadow turned into sunlight. It is the end of living for a jury that never had a right to sit in judgment. It is the dance between inner masculine and inner feminine. It is trauma transformed into wisdom. It is longing turned into creativity. It is silence brave enough to stay, and love brave enough to come and go. There is nothing missing in a complete person. There is nothing to fear in a quiet house. There is nothing to envy in a life that is loudly chaotic and secretly empty. There is a deep, steady joy in belonging to oneself, in learning to be a woman whose worth is not a negotiation. If love arrives, it finds her ready not because she waited at the window in hunger, but because she lived, because she built, because she blessed, because she rested, because she laughed. If love does not arrive, her life is still a feast. Look at the room you are in. Sense your breath as a tide. Feel the floor as a promise. Remember that the door is yours to open and yours to close. Remember that attention is your currency, that the most expensive thing you can give anything is your focus. Spend it on what you want to grow. Let noise leave hungry at your doorstep. Feed what feeds you. One day, a child will ask what it means to be strong. Show a life that did not abandon itself. One day, a friend will ask what it means to be free. Show a calendar that holds your soul as carefully as your tasks. One day, a lover will ask what kind of love you require. Speak the truth with a smile. Make no defense for it. Watch who smiles back. The truth about women who live alone without a man is this: they are not waiting rooms, they are worlds. They are not proofs of bitterness, they are proofs of becoming. They do not reject love, they reject bargains that trade their depth for someone's comfort. They are not lonely, they are alone, and that is a sacred difference. They know that individuation is a long road. Shadow to self, ego to center, longing to love, trauma to tenderness, noise to music, mask to face. They walk it at a human pace. Detachment from validation is not coldness. It is warmth that does not beg. It is love that does not leak. It is joy that does not ask for permission to stay. The door of the house is open to truth, to friendship, to devotion, to beauty. It is closed to pretense, to manipulation, to quiet violence, to loud emptiness. This is not cruelty. This is clarity. If you want to know if she is free, watch how she treats herself when no one is looking. If you want to know if you are free, do the same. Walk your room like it is yours. Speak your no like it blesses your yes. Build your days like the temple they already are. Let the past be a teacher, not a jailer. Let your life be the proof that you were here and that you belong to the person you were given to be. Stand in your house, even if it is a small apartment or a bed in a shared place, and say nothing out loud, only feel this truth: this life belongs to its rightful keeper. And then live it as if that is already understood. You are the keeper of your own fire.